Let's move on to the new topic in vaccines, that history and importance of vaccination. Vaccination concept was first initiated by an English physician named Edward Jenner. He observed that milkmaids which were infected with viral disease called cowpox were rarely victims of the similar disease, that is the smallpox. Jenner took a few drops of fluid from the pustules of a woman who had cowpox and injected this fluid into a healthy young boy who had never had cowpox or smallpox. 6 weeks later, Jenner injected the boy with fluid from a smallpox pustule, but the boy remained free of the dreaded smallpox. In those days, several million people died from smallpox each year in Europe alone. Most of them were young children. And those who survived from the smallpox even were left with many of the side effects like blindness, deep scars, and deformities. So, in 1796, Jenner started on a course that would ease the suffering of people around the world for centuries to come. So, when he developed this particular method of immunizing the person with a slow dose, that is, a fluid from cowpox infected people, he found that many of the people were actually protected against the smallpox. So, this concept was continuously used ever since he actually developed it. But in 1980, an updated version by the involvement of the present day knowledge and genetic engineering, the Jenner vaccine was slightly modified, and this led to the total eradication of smallpox in the whole world. Looking into the early history of vaccination, it is just a compilation of the landmarks of vaccination or vaccine production. In 1879, Louis Pasteur showed that chicken cholera weakened by growing it in laboratory. This could protect against infection with more virulent strains. In 1881, he showed in a public experiment that Pauli-Le-Fort that his anthrax vaccine was efficient in protecting sheep, a goat, and cows. This is an example of an animal being protected by the vaccine. In 1885, Pasteur developed a vaccine against rabies based on a live attenuated virus. Attenuation means it is totally incapable of reproducing or producing any of its metabolic functions. A year later, Edmund Salmon and Theobald Smith developed a heat-killed cholera vaccines. Over the next 20 years, killed typhoid and plague vaccines were developed. In 1927, the Bacilli calmette guerin, the present BCG vaccine against tuberculosis, was developed. Since then, several vaccines have been developed, and they have been developed for more than 20 infectious diseases. In 1798, against smallpox, in 1885 against rabies, in 1897 against plague, in 1927 against tuberculosis, that is BCG. Later, after the Second World War also, many of the vaccines were developed, and to quote a few, in 1955 injectable polio vaccine was developed. In 1962 oral polio vaccine was developed. Likewise, in 1981 hepatitis B vaccines were also developed. Present day vaccination, if we look into the scenario, though we have developed many landmarks in medical biotechnology, we have just successfully got nearing around 34 vaccines developed for nearing around 400 known pathogens which are very much harmful to man. The immunization saves lives of 3 million children each year, but that 2 million more lives would have been saved if existing vaccines were applied on a full scale worldwide. That is to say, immunization protocol has not been very well propagated across the world. It has got its own limitations, because of which it has not been exposed, or it has not been experimented on many human beings across the world. Just to see a brief like what exactly the types of vaccines are. Natural live vaccines, that is, these are nothing but pathogen which are living. So if we look into live attenuated vaccines, these are again the pathogens, but their infectivity or metabolism has been weakened by applying many of the different methods. So that is called as attenuated one. This attenuated live pathogen is called as attenuated non-pathogenic form, and it can be used as a vaccine. If you are making use of natural live vaccine, we will be using a very low dose of this natural vaccine, natural pathogen. Next is, what are killed pathogens? Killed pathogens can also be used as vaccines. In killed pathogen, the live pathogen will be totally inactivated. It would have lost its shape. It has lost its reproducible ability. It has lost its metabolism ability also. There is another type of vaccine which is developed, which focuses on the product which produced by the pathogen. Like for example, a pathogen produces some component which is harmful to the body. That component actually acts on the body to create all type of discomfort. So that we call it as toxin. For example, typhoid. Typhoid produces a toxin. That toxin is the one which actually causes discomfort in the human being. So that toxin itself can be used as a vaccine by slight modification using a chemical. Having this brief idea of different type of vaccinations or vaccines, we can see the history. In 1798, live low-dose component were used. Later in 1885, inactivated forms were used. Similarly, toxoids were first used in 1923. Acellular, that is toxin type components were used in 1926.